What's up, vlog people? This is Sean right here, and I just got back, as you know, from Los Angeles a few days ago, and I had a trip to New York right in front of that. I do a lot of traveling to the United States, and I was just sitting here thinking about how, as much as the two cultures are very similar, especially in the cities, there are a lot of small differences that I noticed, and I wanted to see if you've ever noticed them too, for those of you who travel back and forth. The first one is that on escalators, whether it's in the mall, whether it's in the airport, wherever you go, on the escalators, in the United States, they don't know anything about the concept of walk left, stand right. Now, in Canada, or at least keep in mind here, all the differences are just about my experiences basically in Toronto and to a very lesser extent Montreal as far as Canada goes, and New York, Chicago, and LA in the States. So I'm sure there's differences all across the place, and these are generalizations, I'm sure, but just for the sake of my own observations that I picked up on. So the first one is this business about on the escalators, whether it's the airport or the mall or whatever, there's no walk left, stand right in the United States. In Canada, people don't always do it, but generally there's an accepted, social custom that if you're standing, you stand to the right, and if you're walking up, you walk on the left. So standers get out of the way so the people walking can get up. And that's the thing that we all kind of just, go along with, and everything moves nice and fast. In the United States, there's no such thing. People are standing and they're all wherever they want, and people will walk up, but as soon as somebody has stopped, they're usually right in the middle, or their buddies standing beside them and they're both blocking it, whatever. The second one is whenever there's a situation with a line, Americans tend to think it's okay to leave their shopping cart or set their belongings on the ground, and that holds their place in line and they can go off and do whatever. If it's the kind of thing where you're just kind of stepping over there because there's a rack over there you want to look at real quick, in Canada, at least in my experience, like where I'm at in my life, I would, or other people would typically just like turn to the person behind and say, hey, I'm just going to run over here for a quick second, you mind? And they'd go, no, and you'd go do it. But in the States, they don't really, I guess that's a difference I should have put on this list, is that they don't talk to strangers the same way. Just the little niceties of like, a communication like that, or even just little like thank yous and as people hold the door or whatever. And, not a lot of door holding, but whatever, yeah, that kind of thing. The other one is that McDonald's. I don't eat at McDonald's a lot, but I do like it as a treat once in a while. And I've noticed, and I thought it was just the one location was weird when I had it in the Bronx one time at a McDonald's Express. But I've come to find out, or rather conclude to my own satisfaction, that McDonald's in the United States is quite a bit different in some subtle ways than it is in Canada. For example, the bread, the buns that the burgers come on, they are not as soft and fluffy in the United States as they are in Canada. Also, the fries are a completely different item in the United States than they are in Canada. They just feel different, they taste different, and if you're looking for it, they look a little different. Like the American McDonald's fries are lighter in color and don't have as much like different shades, along the edges or stuff like that. I think the Canadian ones are more golden, whereas like I said, the American ones are lighter in color. And also, when it comes to the coffee, McDonald's does win a lot of taste tests for their coffee, a lot. But in Canada, the coffee is quite a bit different than the coffee at McDonald's in the US. And I think that's because in Canada, they're trying to compete nationwide with Tim Hortons as far as being the place people go to just get a quick coffee. I actually prefer McDonald's coffee. If I'm getting just a takeout coffee real quick, I'll get it at McDonald's if I can help it before I'll get it at Tim Hortons. But that's also because McDonald's had really bad service a long time ago, and internally within the corporation, they did what they could to address that. Tim Hortons, I think, because it's only gotten as big as it has more recently than McDonald's. Like McDonald's dealt with all these growing pains a couple decades ago, and Tim Hortons is just going through those same growing pains now, and so the level of service isn't quite there at Tim Hortons, especially during rush times, at least in the city where I live. The next one is the Subway, the biggest. No, I don't know how it is. I haven't been to Montreal in a while. I've never been to Vancouver or any other Canadian city that might have a Subway. But in Toronto, it's very, very different than in New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles. In all three of those big cities, they've moved to a system where you don't put exact cash fare in a thing at the teller. there's a booth. If there's even a person there, they're just there for like help and information and that kind of stuff. But in New York, Chicago, and LA, you go to the machine, you get your card, you pay $1 for a new card, you load the card, and then you swipe it through the card, you swipe the card, and it takes out either just enough for like the single ride price, or, and this is the chief difference. Because, in Toronto, what I'm saying is that you pay your cash fare and go through, or you can buy tokens, tickets to get a slightly discounted cash fare if you buy them basically in bulk. But an important difference is that with the card system in those American cities, if you show up in town on Wednesday, you can get a 7-day unlimited pass, like get a week's pass, and it'll last for the next 7 days, Wednesday till the following Wednesday, or Tuesday at midnight, or whatever it is. In Toronto, it's by the calendar week or for a month pass. In the States, you swipe your card and you choose a 30-day unlimited ride and you just get the next 30 days. But in Toronto, it's a calendar month. So you buy the November Metro Pass. And if you don't get into town until the 6th of the month, it's not even worth getting the month pass because you've missed the 5 days. And the price of it then is just, it doesn't make sense for you. So you got to get your monthly pass only at the very beginning of the month. And that stinks because you better have your exact cash fare and be able to either go through one of those turnstiles where the collector's kind of moved his chair there and he's sitting there for like a temporary turnstile, or you put it in the machine and get your token. Because if you got to wait in that line just to make change to get on the subway, the line just snakes out of the station on the last day of the month, and then the first day of the month, and oftentimes the second day of the month, because everybody's in line to get their Metro Pass, because you can only get it at the beginning of the month. Week passes is not such a big deal, but yeah, you got to get it on Sunday or maybe Monday, or else, why would you get it? That's a very annoying thing, and Toronto should really, really switch to the card system. In fact, I've said this many times. Toronto's when you buy a monthly pass, that's called a Metro Pass, and people love saying that word Metro Pass. It's got kind of an iconic ring to it, right? The same way, like in New York, everybody, the Metro card. It exists in the culture of the city the same way. Except I really wish that Toronto would just make the switch all at once to the card system, and then your Metro Pass is not the monthly pass; it's the card that you use for your fares. So you can get a single ride, or you can get your unlimited 7-day ride, or your unlimited 30-day ride, and make it like those American cities, which makes a lot more sense. And I'll bet you'd see an uptick in the revenue just out of the people who can go, well, I know I'm gonna be moving. It's a Wednesday, and I'm gonna be moving around a lot for the week and early next week, so I'll get the week pass instead of whatever. And then the final thing is the issue of like nationalism, specifically as expressed in the flags everywhere. When you're in the United States, anywhere that's like a public kind of government run, whether it's like the subway's a big one, even just out on the street, but anywhere that's like civic or the government runs it at all, there's American flags everywhere. Whereas in Canada, you don't see the Canadian flags up everywhere. And I think that kind of hits on like the subtle differences, the way that America sort of culturally anyway, prides itself on being a melting pot, whereas Canada prides itself on being it's multiculturalism. Right? So I think it's more that when you go to America and you become, use the example of Italian, right? You go to the United States and you're Italian American, but in Canada, you're just Italian. And you just happen to live in Canada, right? I think in the United States, there's more of an expectation that you shed a certain amount of your past or your identity to become American, whereas Canada, it's more about come live here and you can be anything you want. You know what I mean? So I think it's just an issue of that kind of national pride, America first attitude, whereas Canada more like exists behind the scenes, keeping everything's working in ways that you don't know about and don't see, which maybe is why we don't, appreciate it, or maybe it's just not that they're so aggressive about it, and that could have something to do with why we just don't have that kind of more kind of war-apt culture, and why there seems to be that difference in the attitudes between the two countries as regards, guns and stuff like that. A lot of big issues, we have a lot of big differences, but thankfully our attitudes are coming closer and closer all the time on that issue of cannabis. We'll talk more about that another time, but we just got elected up here. We elected a brand new prime minister. He just got sworn in a few days ago, and part of his platform was that legalization of cannabis. So let's see how that goes in the next few years. So these are just a few differences that I've noticed between the United States and Canada in my travels, really between the big cities, from Toronto, where I live in Canada, and to my recent travels in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Thanks so much for checking out the vlog. I don't say this enough, but I really hope, well, especially if you're watching this 9 minutes and 38 seconds in, get at me on my social media. There's not nearly as many people following me on Twitter as should for the number of YouTube subscribers I got and stuff like that. And I really like when people get at me on Twitter. And right now, if you want to get word to me or ask me about something, that's a great way to do it, because that's where there's not as many as other avenues. People ask me questions or whatever. So get at me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to the main channel and enjoy the vlogs. And we'll see you again real soon. Yay!